Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have the honor of having Mr. Dinesh D'Souza with us today to discuss his new movie coming out this Friday, September 27th, Vindicating Trump. It is truly an honor. Thank you so much, Dinesh, for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. I'm delighted to be talking to you, and I'm also very excited about the film. In the past, because of COVID, we've had to do kind of a limited release of films, but I'm happy to say that with the new film, we are now in the normal zone. By that, I mean that there'll be multiple showings every day. And the film opens on Friday. There'll be a few early showings on Thursday, but Friday is the official opening of the film, and it's in 850 theaters. And we'll probably, if we do well in the opening weekend, we'll be in even more theaters next week.
Awesome. Okay, to kick us off today, we are going to hear from the one and only President Trump on this film.
My good friend, and I must say a very talented man, Dinesh D'Souza, did a movie that is getting tremendous reviews. It's called Vindicating Trump, and it's opening Friday on the 27th, and I think it's something you should go and see. People are going to love it. It is something very different and very spectacular, actually. So I congratulate Dinesh. A lot of our friends are in it. A lot of our great loyal patriots are in it. And enjoy it. Most importantly, enjoy it. And frankly, learn from it. Vindicating Trump. Have fun. Thank you.
Excellent. And now we're going to see the trailer.
Somebody has to help this country, and if they don't, the country and the world are in big trouble.
Someone's got to overturn the tables in the temple.
Trump jumping into the presidential race.
She's a bit worried.
Of the apprentice guy?
You know the feeling of power. Could you handle it or would it devour?
They fear that power. You didn't do an insurrection. Had you called for one, there would have been one. And there would be one if you called for one now.
I'm not sure I want that power. I want the power just to make the country better.
America first!
And that scares them.
A lot about Donald Trump scares them.
Let's look at everything. Campaign, his family. Let's get foreign eyes on him. We have one target. You know who he is.
Going after their companies, their families. That is a dictator.
It's a very dangerous time for our country.
The goal is to put him in jail because they're so afraid of his voice.
I am your voice!
We'll bury him so deep in legal, it'll bankrupt them.
Broke Donald in jail right before the election. That's
Sorry for being that guy, but isn't that election interference?
It's not interference if we do it.
We just want a free and fair election.
Sounds expensive.
Ballots ain't cheap.
Wait. Did you actually say the word buy the ballots?
We were able to purchase 10,000 ballots.
That's terrifying.
They cheat in many different ways. That's all they're good at.
Ready to save democracy?
We need to stop him permanently.
And that person will be risking his life.
Too bad it's not the 60s, right?
It's the way you survived.
And I said, get me up.
Trump has beaten back every attack against him.
It's like the damn Terminator.
We're going to fix our borders, and we're going to fix our elections. We're going to win.
It's my legacy.
Vindicating Trump.
The best is yet to come.
Only in theaters, September 27th.
Wow, that is so incredibly powerful. You have such a way of bringing out all of the emotion that we all feel and putting it into art and film, and it's incredible. So take it away, Dinesh. Tell us about the movie.
Well, I wanted the movie to make almost the full case for Trump. I wanted to show aspects of Trump that those of us who've had a chance to look at him a little bit up close, we realize that there are aspects that he doesn't put on public display. He sort of shields his own vulnerability. And I wanted to do a one-on-one conversation with Trump that brought out this private Trump that is often not seen by the American people. I also wanted to answer the kind of people who say things like, well, I don't really like Trump, but I like his policies, or he needs to keep his mouth shut. Or you'll have even Republicans, they want to remake Trump. They want a new and different Trump. And part of what I want to argue in this film, and I think I make the case, is that, look, for this particular crisis we face as a country with Democrats that have been running over our civil liberties, we need to have a guy like Trump. He may not be the perfect guy for every time, but he is certainly the best guy for our time.
Excellent. So did you run into any any issues with the movie? Obviously, you're in, not all theaters, but some. I mean, but did you have any challenges with this movie?
I was a bit worried about it because the name Trump is indeed very radioactive in Hollywood. I think the good news is we have good relations with the theater chains. This is my 8th documentary film. And so I was shooting for somewhere between 800 and 1,000 theaters. We've got about 850 so far. We'll probably add some more. So if some of the ladies have gone on the website in the last several days, we had about 500 theaters as of last Friday. My point is a lot more theaters have gone up. So the cool thing about the website, by the way, vindicatingtrump.com, you just put in your city and it pops up all the theaters around you. So it's pretty easy to find out where it's playing. And I try to set it up so that you can see it pretty much anywhere in the country. You might have to drive 20 minutes or 30 minutes at the outside, but I'm trying to make it easy and available for people pretty much anywhere in the United States.
Amazing. So is there anything else the women can do to help get these in more other than just buying tickets? Can they reach out to these theaters? Is there anything we can do? Because these women can do it.
Well, the important thing is to round up the gang, the family, the friends. I mean, I think if NFRW clubs around the country basically organize, let's go see the movie together. It's wonderful to see these movies in the theater, and it's wonderful to see them with like-minded people. It fuels a lot of passion, of discussion, of motivation. Later, I'll be worrying about how to get the film to independence. So sure, if you have, a wavering family member or friend, bring him to the film to be sure. But the most important thing is to flood the theaters in opening weekend. It's not widely known that the fate of a film almost hinges on how it does in the opening weekend. If it does well in the opening weekend, it gets the rocket fuel to expand even further. So the best thing you can do at this point to support Trump, certainly to support the film, is to make plans to see it this weekend.
Okay, very good. Will there be any opportunity for live streaming in the future?
After the film comes out of theaters, there will be a little window of time which we're kind of contractually obliged to wait, and then it will be available for digital streaming as well as DVD. So those are wonderful ways, for example, to share it, to give it to friends, to show it at home, and so on. But again, I want to emphasize that I've been disappointed with the last couple of films where, for example, we didn't have normal theatrical openings. And there were people who complained. They're like, well, listen, I can't see the film in the theater. Then they want to screen it at their church, or they want to screen it in their club. But I'm making it easy for you to see it in the theater. It's ready-made. And it's going to be in the sort of cinematic way that I make these films to be. So it's a very entertaining, amusing, at times laugh out loud, but also very inspiring film. See it in the theater if you can. If you can't, there are going to be other ways to see it, but this is the best way to see it.
Excellent. Yes, and ladies, this would be an excellent thing for you and your club to do all together, go this weekend or next week and see it. We're going to move to the chat now, and we've got some questions for you. To start with, Lorraine is asking, what happened with the information that was brought forth from 2000 Mules, the movie that movie was amazing and extremely troubling when it came to the fixing of the 2020 election?
So 2000 Mules, I think, did everything that a movie can do, which is to say it shows you a problem. It doesn't just tell you about it. It shows you the surveillance video. You can see for yourself what the problems are. So the next step was for someone to do some investigation. Now, the Democrats are reluctant to do it. And of course, they control a lot of these sort of areas that we focused on in the film, like Philadelphia, like Milwaukee, Detroit, and so on. But part of what was really disappointing about that film in the aftermath was a lot of Republicans are scared of the issue of election fraud. A lot of Republican congressmen and senators don't want to be called election deniers. And so the very people we counted on to be demanding investigations. And look, I always said, look, let's go interview the mules. There may be some perfectly innocent explanation for why this guy is showing up at 1:30 in the morning with a backpack full of ballots, with latex gloves on, taking photos of the ballots as they go in. Maybe there's some other explanation. I can't think of one, but maybe there is one. The problem is no one did the follow-up where law enforcement goes to these mules and demands, what were you doing on this occasion? And here you are on the video. Can you please explain yourself? That never happened. And so the movie did a lot to raise awareness of the issue. I think it's made it very hard for the Democrats to cheat in the same way in 2024. So the movie's done an awful lot of good, although I wish it could have done even more.
Yes. Another question. It opens this weekend. Do you know how long it will be in the theaters?
Typically, what the theaters will commit to doing is they'll commit to having it in this weekend, all through next week and next weekend, and then after that, it's a we'll see. So it all depends on how many seats. Remember, the theaters are in the real estate business, right? They're filling seats, and a movie is a kind of intimidating project, because when you're doing a theater that has multiple showings every single day, you need a lot of people to go to the theater and see that film for the film to be a success. Ultimately, it's my challenge to make sure this film gets out to tens of millions of people. But the best way for me to do that is to make sure that it's an initial success in its opening weekend of the box office run. So if you go see it this weekend, it's worth like 5 times more to us than if you went to see it, let's say, next Wednesday. So if that's the only way to see it, sure enough, go see it Wednesday. But if you can possibly see it this weekend, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, that is preferable.
Okay, excellent. Next question. Is the advertising for the movie getting past censorship by social media successfully?
Yes, we had Trump share his statement on X. He's got 90 million followers. Elon Musk follows me on X. So we're using the free speech platforms to really push it out. Certainly my content is restricted on YouTube. I'm not banned, but I am restricted. I use Facebook. We do very creative things. We have promos for the movie that are made by the Kamala Harris impersonator, the Trump impersonator. Obviously, we buy radio advertising around the country. I'm doing a lot of media. So we do our best. We'll get the word out to a lot of people. But I think that the Federated Republican Women are a sort of a special type of army. And if you guys get behind this film big time, that will be an enormous boost to the movie and an enormous boost to Trump.
I agree. And we are going to do that and have been doing that. The next question is, which is kind of the same, but will it do any good to share it on Facebook, or will it get dinged or censored?
No, it shouldn't, because there's nothing in the trailer that is that either violates the guidelines. I mean, I've put it up on my Facebook. My daughter, Danielle D'Souza Gill, she has one of the largest Facebook pages in the country. She's promoting it, no problem. So this is not like Mules. Mules was a kind of taboo topic. But here, all we're doing is we're showing, well, you've seen the trailer. There's nothing in that trailer that could cause Facebook any issues. So I would say it's perfectly fine to share.
Okay, good deal. So a question, that we all struggle with. We all want to see Trump vindicated. So the timing of this is excellent, and I think, the reach will be excellent. But is there anything that you can suggest that the average, everyday person or woman can do to help get the message out to vindicate Trump?
Well, I think in the second stage that goes beyond the theater, there will be ways to be able to get the film out to very widely and to people who are not even who would never dream of paying $10 to go see it, right? Because the typical when you have a product initially, it appeals to the people who already care about the product. It's like if I was selling hiking boots, it's going to be my initial audience is all the people who already love to hike. But the independent voter is kind of like a guy who's like not sold on hiking, but he's like, well, maybe I might give it a try. That guy is a little bit harder to convince. And I don't try to get that guy, at least in large numbers, to the theater. But I do think that in the streaming phase and the DVD phase, there are plenty of ways to be able to get this film into the hands of independent voters and basically say, hey, listen, watch it and make up your own mind. The good thing about a film is it's a story. It's show, not tell. There's nothing heavy-handed about the film. I interviewed Trump for 45 minutes. There's about 20 minutes of that interview in the film. So you can kind of see Trump for yourself. You can make up your own mind about him. And so I think the film is a very good form of messaging, very different from, say, a campaign commercial or something that immediately puts people on their guard, like I'm being sold a message. A film isn't selling you anything. It's just showing you.
Okay. The next question is, what other, if you can answer this one, what other conservative groups are helping you get it out, and which ones are resisting you?
I have had no resistance on this film so far. One thing I am doing is, and Laura Trump is, of course, in the film, is I will make a pitch to the RNC and to the Trump campaign because, see, they actually have the email addresses and the physical addresses of a lot of the independent and swing voters. I don't have by myself the ability to reach millions of swing voters. I don't even know where they are or who they are, but the campaigns do know, and the RNC does know. So they will have the ability, once they evaluate this messaging, to figure out very easy ways to get these links or to get the information about the film to the very people with whom it could make the biggest difference.
Okay. And back to elections, I think one of the, obviously, the burning question on everyone's mind is this election going to have integrity? Is it going to be fraudulent? Are they going to allow, we know he's going to win, but are they going to allow that? Is there anything that you suggest that everyday people, women, can do to help secure this election?
The first thing that I would say is that there is a section in this new film that is called the ballot makers, and it opens up a completely new door into the issue of election fraud because it shows that you, Nikki, or I can actually make ballots. This seems kind of crazy because we think we get ballots from the state. You want to do an absentee ballot? I call the state of Texas, please send me an absentee ballot. We show in this film that you can make an unlimited number of ballots yourself. You can do it, I can do it, anyone can do it. It's very scary. And the investigators that we hired that show us this, I told them, listen, don't come and tell me that you can make ballots. Go make them. Go do it. Show me that you can make ballots that are legitimate ballots that can go into an election tabulator and be counted, and they do. So this is a mind-blowing part of the film. I talked to Laura Trump about it, and she was completely astounded, and she's like, I'm gonna get on this like as of yesterday, right now. And it's a good thing too, because I think with election fraud, when you bust it in advance, it's more difficult to do it. It's kind of like if I was saying, hey, at Fort Knox, there happens to be a back door and they leave it open on Saturday so anybody can go in and steal all the gold. Well, even if they don't lock the door, since we all know about it, there are going to be people watching for it. And so the thieves, the people who want to do something bad are not going to be able to pull off the heist, at least not so easily. So there's new information about election fraud in this film that looks at vulnerabilities in our election system that need to be fixed.
Okay. The next question we have is, will Amazon Prime or Netflix ever stream this movie later, or no way?
On Netflix, I can give you a hard no. On Amazon Prime and iTunes, we've had mixed success. The problem is that because the film is an election film, it has a very short runway. So let's just say that if it gets on Amazon Prime, in December, it has much less importance and value because obviously the subject matter of the film is timely for the next, month and a half. And so I'm not even worried at this point so much about Amazon Prime. I'm worried about a big success in the theater, a widespread streaming to follow, lots of DVDs available so that they can be easily shared. And then just finally a strategy to get this into the eyes, in front of the eyes of tens of millions of people.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit more about sitting down with Trump and how he's feeling, how, optimistic he is, just your takeaway from sitting down with him?
Interestingly, we were supposed to interview him, as it turns out, 2.5 weeks before the first assassination attempt, and it got postponed, and we were sort of horrified, but providentially, we got the interview a week after the assassination. In fact, right after the Republican National Convention, and so all that stuff is in the film. The film looks like it was completed like last night. It's so fresh, and it's so timely. Now, when my wife and I first met Trump, this was in the fall of 2019 after I got my presidential pardon. This was kind of a way Trump was like, come over and let's hang out for a while and let's talk about stuff. So we met in the Oval Office. Debbie, my wife, asked him an interesting question. She said, hey, you are flayed on every platform, every moment of every day. Like, how do you do it? Does it get to you? And quite honestly, both of us expected Trump to go, ha, 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 no, these people are idiots. They're crazy. I enjoy it. They're nuts. But he didn't do that. He actually he caught himself and he was like, he goes, I got to admit that at the end of the day, he goes, it does get to me. He goes, I'm doing this for the country. And even when I do things that are quite obviously good, I get rid of an international terrorist. He goes, I get attacked for that. So when Debbie and I left that meeting, we said to ourselves, there's a whole side of Trump that he doesn't like to wear on his sleeve. He has a kind of manly reluctance to talk about his feelings or showing his vulnerability. So I was determined to bring out that side of him in this film. And I'm happy to say I think I did.
Well, good. We can't wait to see it. We have another question. Is there any way to identify and reject the unofficial ballots created by the ballot makers?
Yes, there is, but there's also nothing better than busting a scheme in the act itself. In other words, it's always difficult. I mean, think about 2000 Mules. It came out in May of 2022. The election was in November of 2020. So producing information in the rear view mirror is good and helpful for the future, but there's nothing like catching the criminals in the act. It turns out that many of the states get their ballots by contracting with these ballot printing firms. And these ballot printing firms allow people to buy that same exact ballot stock online, delivered to your door. And then think about it. If you go to any state and request an absentee ballot, that's a real ballot. That doesn't say sample ballot. And it's a real ballot that has no watermark and it has no identifying numbers on it at all. It's just a ballot. You can go to a local print store and make 10,000 ballots over the weekend. So it's a scary thing. We do not treat ballots with the same care that we treat, for example, $20 bills, which are not so easy to counterfeit. And so all of this is exposed in the movie. And I think just putting it out there before the election is going to put the cheaters on notice that not only you and I as individuals, but the PACs, the RNC, the Republican establishment is going to be on their watch. And Trump himself, of course, has said that considerable resources are being devoted to what he calls, securing the election as much as is being devoted to get out the vote.
Okay. So, my political mind, it goes straight to legislation. Do you think there's legislation that states could put forward that would prohibit these printing companies from printing ballots for the elections?
Absolutely. There are legislative remedies. This could even be stopped at the executive level. There are all kinds of things that you can do. Of course, Trump's point, and he makes this point in the conversation with me in the film, is he goes, look, in order for me to really fix this, I need to be in office, right? So we need to have the power to make the changes. In fact, this was kind of the meaning of when Trump said, you only have to vote once. He didn't mean, I'm going to end your democracy, there'll be no voting in the future. What he really meant is, for a lot of people who don't like to be distracted by politics, he's like, look, get me in there. I will fix these problems to your satisfaction. So, in other words, this is a critical election to get some of these problems. Because if a heist can be done once and then can be done again, and both times it goes undetected, that's a very bad sign for the future integrity of our system.
Okay, so we have another question. Do you feel that the RNC is on top of many of the issues that were brought out in all of the various lawsuits that would not be heard by any courts in the past? Obviously, I have a concern about the fraud that was not dealt with and the election was certified anyway.
I do think that the level of malevolent ingenuity that the Democrats brought in 2020 and their manipulation of COVID caught the Republicans by surprise. Recently, for example, many of you saw when Dr. Fauci said, he admitted that the 6 feet social distancing rule had absolutely no science behind it, no studies. They just made the whole thing up, right? But they made the whole thing up with a purpose. And what was that purpose? Well, the purpose is that if you have to be 6 feet away from the next guy, you can't have a normal election. People can't stand in line to vote. So that's why they're like, okay, we have to change all the rules. We need to mail out millions of ballots. We need to have mail-in drop boxes. So interestingly, that bogus COVID rule had the diabolical motive of changing the rules of the 2020 election. So Republicans are by and large pretty straightforward, pretty straight-laced, pretty much live and let live. We don't think like criminals. But happily I do. So in this film, for example, I say to myself, all right, if I want to rob Fort Knox, if I want to cheat in the 24 election and do it in a different way than happened in 2020, and even in 2022, I want to do something different than what was done in Maricopa County. Oops, the tabulators don't work. I thought about how would I do it? So we reveal that in the film. So the bottom line of it is I think we're in better shape in 2024 than we were in 2020. I'm not privy to like the internal workings of the RNC and kind of how on it they are, but I do think that they are more on it than before. But I also think that vigilance at the local level, meaning for all of us to keep our eyes and ears open, for as many of us to be poll watchers, poll observers, all of that is needed to supplement what the RNC and the campaign are doing.
I agree. Poll watching is the number one thing that just an average American can do to help. Having eyeballs on them the whole time is definitely a way we can help. One more question, and then we'll let you go. I know you have a busy schedule. The women really, really want to help get this in theaters. Can they call their local theater and request, or if they have a group that's large enough, is there a way that we can, other than, yes, going and seeing it, but can they call and ask for the theater to show it?
Yes, absolutely. The thing not to do is a lot of times we get a lot of requests from people who want to screen the film privately at a private venue with a group in attendance. That's, first of all, very difficult for us to organize. There are certain prohibitions on it. There are all kinds of technical problems with it because we send the theater as a digital print. Whereas if you have the film, let's say at your local Hyatt Regency, most likely we're going to have to play it from a DVD. So the whole thing is much more cumbersome. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. Yes, if it's not in your local theater and you happen to have the email of the manager and you say, you know, in a very polite way, hey, there's a bunch of us who would love to see this film. It's playing in theaters all over the place. Can you get it into your theater? That guy can certainly do it. So there's no harm in going to theaters. But if for some reason it doesn't happen, my point is look for the theater nearest you, round up a group anyway, make sure you go see it because you will be giving us a massive boost going into October. And enable us to get, 2,000 Mules was ultimately seen by something like 25 million people. It had its impact because a lot of people saw it. Let's remember that the left, their strategy, like right now, and this is, by the way, not unique to me. Daily Wire had their film out called Am I Racist? Not one word about either of our films in the New York Times, the Washington Post, CBS, NBC, CNN. The left strategy is utter silence. Pretend the film does not exist. Their second strategy is attack the film. But they only attack the film if the film is a real threat. So your job is to help me make it a real threat. Then they will start attacking the film, which is actually a good thing, because that will then show a lot of other people who are not even all that political go, I want to go find out what all the ruckus is all about. So if you want to find out, like, how do you get people who are not that political to see a film like mine, you got to get people talking about it. And the first step to do that is to get the left to start attacking the film, which they will do if it has a big opening weekend.
Okay. Well, ladies, you heard it. You know what to do. Let's get our clubs out there this weekend as much as we possibly can and see the movie. Thank you so much, Dinesh, for being with us today. We are so honored. Once again, I can't say that enough. Thank you for everything you do. I know that you have been just as much a victim of the left and the media as Trump has, and we just appreciate your guts and everything that you do. Thank you so much.
Well, I love you guys, and I count on you. And the website is just vindicatingtrump.com, and find out. That's where you find out about the theaters. And I want to thank you, Nikki, and I want to thank the National Federation of Republican Women for your support.